The Arc2E and ArcWeb are flexible tools for controlling the Symetrix Jupiter series DSPs. This tech tip will explain programming source select and volume controls specifically in the BGM Zone-Mixer app for an Arc2E. The process will be very similar for ArcWeb. In this example, there are 4 sources available in a hotel: a Sonos media player, TV, PC, and a Bluetooth wall panel. There are also 4 zones in the building: entrance, lobby, lounge, and patio. For our zone source and volume control, there are 3 main sections we'll focus on. Outputs, which are the physical analog outputs that are the zones in the building. Routing matrix, which will determine which zones get which priority mixer submix. And priority mixers, which will equivocate to our zones and which sources go to the physical outputs. Open up Priority Mixer 1. Notice there are 2 sources, Source 1 and Source 2. Consider these more like channels than sources. Both of these channels have radio buttons for assign. These are selectors for which analog input source will feed this channel source. Both of these channels have their own gain fader and mute button. There is also a master channel which has its own gain fader and mute. So, in short, priority mixers can be considered small submixes of 2 channels, each with their own faders, and a master fader that controls the overall gain of the submix. For our mono source select example, we will only need source 1, or channel 1, active, so we can mute source 2. Click back to the home screen. Now, open up the routing matrix. Notice the zones are labeled zones 1 through 4. Similarly, the outputs are labeled channels 1 through 4, but have taken the channel name given the output section. The connect points are by default set up in a stair-step pattern. This means that zone 1 only sends to output channel 1, zone 2 to output 2, and so on. The zones labeled like this can be confusing, however, they relate directly to those priority mixers we looked at previously. In this sense, with this stair-step pattern, priority mixer 1 only sends to output channel 1. Priority mixer 2 to output 2, and so on. If desired, relabel these to priority 1 through 4. Click back to the home screen. With this understanding of how the signal flow works, open up the external control wizard. We can see 2 major options: add new external controller and edit existing external controller. We don't already have an Arc2E with programming in this configuration, so choose Add New and select Arc2E Wall Panel. Then click Next. Name the Arc2E appropriately to what its intended use is or the area it will exist in. This name will display on the Arc2E screen. Then, select the proper address referring to the diagram. Then click Add New Menu. There are 4 options available for Arc2E menus: volumes, buttons, radio button groups, and presets. We'll start with radio button groups to set up our source selection for zones. Select radio button groups and click Next. The parameter drop-down shows which elements in the Jupiter software fall into the category of radio button groups, which are only those blue source select buttons in each priority mixer. In this case, we want priority mixer source 1, assign radio button, channel 1. Channel 1 means priority mixer 1, and because of the stair-step pattern in the routing matrix, channel 1 also means output 1. Assign radio button refers to those blue source select buttons. Source 1 means channel source 1 within priority mixer 1. The name field is for naming the menu for these controls. Again, because of how the routing matrix is set up, priority mixer 1 is output 1, which is entrance. So this menu can be named entrance source. The list of channels 1 through 4 are the sources that the assign radio button group includes. In this case, there are 4 channels which relate directly to the input sources: Sonos, TV, PC, and Bluetooth. We can rename the channels accordingly. This name will appear on the Arc2E. The checkboxes determine which of these sources will be included in the menu. For example, if entrance should only ever be able to choose between Sonos and PC, we would only include those in the menu. Select the available options to include and click Next. We are returned back to the menus page of the wizard where we can add more menus or edit the existing ones. Now we can set up the volume control for the entrance. Click Add New Menu. Naturally, we will select volume on the next page. The choice between continuous and enumerated will depend on the needs of the client. The large majority of cases will use continuous. Make the appropriate selection and click Next. If we open the parameter drop-down, notice there are many more and different options than available for the Source Select menu. These are all the volume controls available in the Jupiter software. For the entrance zone volume, we could control the Priority Mixer 1, Source 1 gain fader. However, there may be a time that an input is swapped out for a paging microphone, which would mean Source 2 may need to be included in the Priority Mixer. It would make more sense to control the overall zone volume with the Priority Mixer Master Gain Fader. As noted in the Source Select, Channel 1 means Output 1, which means Priority Mixer 1. Just as with the Source Selection, we can name this menu appropriately. The upper and lower limits are available if necessary. Click Next when ready. We are again brought back to the main page for the ARC2E, where we can add more menus or edit the existing ones. Let's add a second Source Select and Volume control. Add new menu and select radio button groups. This will be the source selection for lobby. In this case, we'll need to select Priority Mixer Source 1, assign radio button, Channel 2. This is because Channel 2 is Output 2, which is Priority Mixer 2. Here is an important note regarding the channel selection. The Jupiter has the ability to do stereo left-right source selection. However, the setup procedure is arduous and it is recommended to sum all stereo source to mono before inputting to the Jupiter. Because of this stereo selection ability, all even-numbered priority mixers have every two channel options reversed. This can be very confusing to keep track of, as in Priority Mixer 1 and odd-numbered priority mixers, Channel 1 would actually be Input Channel 1, or the Sonos. In Priority Mixer 2 and all other even-numbered, what is labeled Channel 2 here is actually Input Channel 1, or Sonos. The way to work around this is to simply swap Channels 1 and 2, and Channels 3 and 4, and so on for Jupiter 8 and 12. Then, label the channels according to the actual input source. Again, these names will appear on the ARC2E menu. Click Next and return to the menu home page. Once all controls have been set up, click Next from the menu home page here. Set the brightness and controller behavior appropriately and click Next. From here, we can simulate the ARC2E and double-check controls. The Jupiter software will need to be set to the page we want to monitor, in this case any of the priority mixers, to check for source selection and volume control. This tech tip will not go over setting up the ARC web, but the process is nearly identical. There is a document tech tip on the Symetrix website under Library, Videos, and searching for mono source select and volume control for Jupiter using ARC2E and ARC web remotes.